Ladies and gentlemen, let me be blunt. You're not here to make everyone like you. You're not here to hand out kindness like candy, hoping that the world gives you a pat on the back. You're here to win. You're here to build something real, something that leaves a mark. And let me tell you, that doesn't happen by being everyone's doormat. Kindness, when it's rooted in strength, is a beautiful thing. But when it's handed out without thought, without standards, without limits, it turns into a liability. A lot of people walk around thinking that if they're kind to everyone all the time, they'll be rewarded for it, that the world will notice their heart and somehow pay them back. It won't. It's a fantasy sold to keep people soft, tame, and controllable. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Kindness without boundaries is not kindness at all. It's weakness in disguise. It's fear wearing a smile. It's insecurity dressed up as virtue. If you're always kind, always accommodating, always bending over backward for others without asking yourself if they deserve it, you're not being noble. You're being used. You teach people how to treat you. And if you keep showing up with open hands and no standards, don't be surprised when they take everything and leave you empty. That's what happens when your kindness has no edge, no bite, no limits. You get drained, disrespected, overlooked, and the worst part, you start losing respect for yourself. Because deep down, you know you're not being strong. You're avoiding conflict. You're afraid of not being liked. You're choosing temporary approval over long-term power. People who are truly powerful aren't afraid to say no. They're not afraid to draw lines. They know that kindness without clarity becomes chaos. You have to ask yourself, am I being kind because I want to, or because I'm scared of what will happen if I'm not? That one question reveals everything. Napoleon Hill said, deliberately seek the company of people who influence you to think and act on building the life you desire. That doesn't happen when you let everyone in. That doesn't happen when you're busy being everyone's emotional crutch. You have to protect your space, your time, your energy. And you can't do that if you're out here being endlessly nice to people who wouldn't lift a finger for you in return. Think about this. Lions don't explain themselves to sheep. The most driven, focused, successful people you'll ever meet are not wasting time trying to be kind to everyone. They're kind to the right people, and they're ruthless with their time. Not cruel, not cold, just clear. And that's what most people are missing. Clarity. Handy, happy. The kind that says, what I tolerate, this is what I don't. And I don't care if that makes you uncomfortable. Well, weak kindness says, I hope they like me. Strong clarity says, I hope they respect me. And make no mistake, respect beats likability every single time. You can't build anything that lasts on a foundation of flattery and fake smiles. You build with truth. You build with fire. You build by standing for something, even if that means standing alone sometimes. It's not your job to carry everyone. It's not your job to be the emotional sponge for other people's dysfunction. It's your job to build your life. And that means making decisions that sometimes look cold on the outside, but are rooted in deep self-respect. When you stop trying to be kind to everyone, you finally create room for your real values to show. You stop tolerating nonsense. You stop giving energy to people who only want to take. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't get it, and never will. And in that space where you stop giving kindness out like coupons, that's where your power starts to grow. That's where your time becomes yours again. Your mind becomes sharp. Your goals become clear. Your goals become clear, and suddenly the right people start showing up. People who match your values. People who respect your boundaries. People who don't need you to sacrifice yourself to make them feel better. That's the shift. That's when you stop being everyone's option and start becoming your own priority. And if someone can't handle that version of you, the one with standards, strength, and self-respect, then let them go. You're not here to be everyone's favorite. You're here to become unstoppable. People-pleasing is one of the most subtle forms of self-destruction. It looks harmless on the outside. You smile, you nod, you go along to get along. You say yes, when you want to scream a no. You bend, you shrink, you twist yourself into whatever shape people want just to avoid conflict, rejection, or judgment. You convince yourself you're being polite, cooperative, thoughtful. But deep down, you know what's really happening. You're betraying yourself over and over again. Every time you silence your voice to keep someone else comfortable, a part of you dies a little. You lose a piece of your truth. You chip away at your own power. And the worst part is, it's never enough. You can give people everything, your time, your energy, your attention, and they'll still find something to criticize. You'll still fall short in someone's eyes. That's the trap. You keep trying to please people who are never really satisfied in the first place. And in doing that, you sacrifice your own peace, your own direction, your own authenticity. You're not put on this planet to keep everyone happy. That's not your job. That's not your mission, and if you're spending your life chasing approval, you're wasting time you'll never get. Because the people who demand the most from you usually give the least. The more you give in, the more they expect. It's a one-way street, and it ends in burnout, resentment, and regret. Napoleon Hill talked about definiteness of purpose, having a clear burning goal and aligning your thoughts, actions, and choices to that purpose. You cannot do that if you're constantly molding yourself to fit other people's expectations. You cannot do that if you're busy tiptoeing around feelings and bending your truth for applause. You cannot build something legendary if you're afraid of being disliked. Here's the hard truth. When you prioritize everyone else's comfort over your own truth, you lose yourself. You become a mirror reflecting what others want to see instead of a fire burning with who you really are. That's not kindness. That's not humility. That's fear. That's survival mode. And survival mode doesn't build empires, it builds cages. Some people are addicted to being liked because it gives them temporary validation. But what's the cost of that validation? Your time, your authenticity, your soul. You have to ask yourself, what am I giving up every time I try to be everything for everyone? And is it worth it? People pleasing will have you in rooms you don't belong in with people you don't respect, doing things you don't believe in, all because you're afraid to be seen as a difficult or a too much. But guess what? Leaders are a too much. Creators are a too much. Visionaries are a too much. They don't get where they are by being neutral. They get there by being true, by standing tall when others bow, by holding the line when others fold. There's a huge difference between being kind and being a doormat. One is rooted in power. The other is rooted in fear. Real kindness has boundaries. Real kindness knows when to walk away. Real kindness doesn't betray itself to win favor. If you have to break your own values to gain someone's approval, you've already lost. You were not born to live in reaction to other people's opinions. You were not born to be small, silent, agreeable, and afraid. You were born to lead, to build, to create, to speak, to live with fire. That means you will be misunderstood. That means some people will call you arrogant. That means you'll lose people along the way. But that's not your problem. That's the price of staying real. Once you realize that self-betrayal is the real failure, not rejection, not criticism, not conflict, everything changes. You stop explaining yourself. You stop watering yourself down. You stop apologizing for your voice. You stop caring if people clap because you're no longer performing. You're living fully, honestly, unapologetically. People pleasing may keep the peace for a moment, but it destroys your potential over time. And one day you'll wake up and wonder where your life went, where your fire went. Where you went. So stop. Stop smiling through disrespect. Stop staying quiet to keep peace. Stop giving energy to people who drain you. You're not here to be liked. You're here to live with purpose. Here's something you need to understand fast if you want to protect your peace and build a life of power. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone has earned the right to your time, your focus, your presence, your help, or even your attention. We live in a world that glorifies constant connection, endless conversations, always being available, and being everything to everyone. That's a fast track to mental, emotional, and spiritual burnout. And if you don't get serious about who you give your energy to, you'll keep waking up drained and wondering why your goals are stuck in neutral. Your energy is your life force. It fuels your work, your decisions, your growth, your creativity, your vision. But too many people throw it away on the wrong things. Gossip, drama, pointless debates, toxic relationships, needy people, distractions disguised as opportunities. And then they wonder why they're exhausted, uninspired, and off track. It's not a mystery. You've got leaks in your system, and it's your responsibility to patch them up. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Not everyone deserves front row seats to your life. Some people are only around because you make it easy for them to stay. You feed them attention. You respond to every message. You let them dump their emotional chaos on you every time they're bored or broken. You confuse empathy with obligation. And every time you do that, you're stealing from your own future to comfort someone who probably wouldn't do the same for you. Approval is one of the most addictive drugs on the planet. The craving to be liked, to be accepted, to be seen as a good, a nice, a worthy. It runs deep. It's subtle, it's seductive, and it's deadly to your potential. Most people are walking around chasing validation like it's oxygen. They shapeshift into whatever version of themselves they think the world wants, all for a little bit of praise, a compliment, a nod, a like. And in the process, they lock themselves in a cage built by other people's opinions. Approval is a prison, a quiet one. You don't even realize you're in it at first. It doesn't come with bars or walls. It comes with fake smiles, with second-guessing yourself, with holding back your truth. It shows up every time you want to speak your mind, but bite your tongue. Every time you downplay your goals so others don't feel uncomfortable. Every time you act small just to make someone else feel big. That's the prison. It's invisible, but it's real. And most people live their entire lives inside of it, never realizing the key was always in their hands. Think about how much time you've lost worrying about what other people think, how many opportunities you didn't take, how many conversations you avoided, how many parts of yourself you silenced, not because you weren't ready, but because you were afraid of judgment, afraid of rejection, afraid of rejection. Afraid of being too much, too loud, too intense, too different, you handed the steering wheel of your life to other people, hoping they'd approve of where you were going. But here's the problem. Most of them don't even know where they're going themselves. Trying to please everyone is a guaranteed way to lose yourself. Because the second you get close to what someone else wants, someone new will come along and want the opposite. It's never ending. You'll never hit the mark. Because the mark keeps moving. And the more you chase it, the more you become a watered-down version of who you were meant to be. Napoleon Hill said, "A man who cannot be defeated in his own mind is truly unconquerable." But when you're addicted to approval, you defeat yourself before the world even has the chance. You censor your thoughts. You play it safe. You settle for average. Because average is safe, average doesn't upset anyone. But average also doesn't change anything. It doesn't build empires. It doesn't break records. It doesn't make history. You want to do something meaningful with your life? Get ready to be misunderstood. Get ready to be judged. Get ready to be disliked. Because the second you stop living for approval, you start standing out. And people fear what they don't understand. But here's the thing. Their opinions are none of your business. You're not here to fit in. You're here to rise. And rising means some people will get uncomfortable. Let them. The people who truly matter, the ones who are strong, focused, evolving, they don't need you to play small. They respect power. They recognize fire. They don't want your performance. They want your truth. And if someone can't handle the full version of you, that's not your loss. That's theirs. Approval keeps you in a constant loop of hesitation. You think, what will they think? And suddenly you're frozen. You doubt your idea. You water down your dream. You delay your move. And just like that, momentum dies. Greatness doesn't grow in hesitation. It grows in bold action. And bold action doesn't ask for permission. You don't need applause to start. You don't need support to be worthy. You don't need permission to be powerful. The only thing you need is the courage to back yourself, fully, consistently, unapologetically. And the second you stop chasing approval, you free up energy for something far more important. Alignment. Alignment with your purpose, your values, your vision, your truth. And that's where real confidence is born. Confidence isn't built on compliments. It's built on doing what's right for you, even when no one claps, even when people talk, even when you stand alone, especially then. So if you want real freedom, stop seeking validation. Stop asking for permission. Stop waiting for the world to approve of what your soul already knows is right, because approval is a prison, and your mission is too important to waste another day locked inside. Let me make this perfectly clear. Being direct is not the same as being rude. In fact, it's the opposite. People often confuse the two in a world that worships politeness over truth. If you speak your mind honestly, if you express your needs and your opinions without sugarcoating, someone will always accuse you of being harsh, unkind, or abrasive. But guess what? That's their problem, not yours. The truth is, the world needs more people who are willing to be direct, to cut through the noise, and to say what's on their mind without fear of offending someone. Let's be real for a second. When you sugarcoat everything, when you wrap your words in softness, you're not helping anyone. You're doing them a disservice. You're keeping them in a bubble, protected from the truth that they need to hear in order to grow. It's like telling someone their business is great when it's falling apart, or pretending everything's fine when someone's about to make a disastrous decision. That's not kindness. When you're afraid to be direct, you're letting people stay stuck. You're letting them continue down paths that will lead them nowhere. And that's the real cruelty. The reason we hesitate to be direct is fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of rejection. Fear of being labeled the difficult one. But let me ask you this. Why should you shrink your truth just to make someone else feel comfortable? Why should you play small, water down your words, or avoid the tough conversations just to keep the peace? The peace you're keeping isn't real. It's fragile, temporary, and built on a foundation of dishonesty. Napoleon Hill said, "The starting point of all achievement is desire." Well, if you desire real growth, for yourself and for the people around you, you've got to be willing to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. People need you to be honest with them. They need you to show them where they're wrong, where they're playing small, where they're letting fear control them. That's how real leaders operate. They say what needs to be said even when it's difficult, and they do it with respect, not malice. Being direct is not an attack. It's a gift. It's giving someone the opportunity to see things clearly, to face reality, and to improve. When you're too polite, you keep people in the dark. You keep them comfortable in their ignorance. And that's not love, that's avoidance. You're avoiding the responsibility of helping them become better. You're avoiding the discomfort of speaking your truth, which is the only thing that will move anyone forward. If you can't say it directly, you're not doing anyone any favors. If you can't stand in your truth, speak it clearly, and not worry about whether or not everyone agrees with you. You're wasting your potential. People might not always like what you have to say. In fact, many won't. But the ones who matter, the ones who are truly open to growth, will appreciate you for it. They will respect your honesty. They will thank you for your clarity, and they will be better for it. Being direct is an act of leadership. It's taking responsibility for your voice, for your influence, for the people who look to you for guidance. You don't have to be rude, cruel, or harsh. You don't have to be disrespectful. But you do have to be clear. You do have to be honest. You do have to be willing to say, this is what's true. This is what's real. And if it makes someone uncomfortable, that's their issue to work through, not yours. The world is full of noise, distractions, and half-truths. It's full of people walking around, too afraid to say what they really think, too afraid to be themselves. And that's exactly why you need to be different. You need to stand out by speaking clearly with confidence and conviction. You need to be the person who cuts through the fluff, the vague responses, the passive-aggressive comments, and tells it like it is. People will either respect you for it or resent you for it. But guess what? The ones who respect you are the ones who matter. The truth doesn't need to be softened. It doesn't need to be hidden behind layers of politeness or hesitation. The truth stands strong on its own. And when you learn to speak it directly, you will gain more respect, more trust, and more influence than you ever thought possible. You won't have to ask for permission to lead. People will follow you because they know you're real. They know you're honest. They know you're not going to waste their time or let them waste theirs. So stop worrying about being liked. Stop worrying about being polite. Start worrying about being real. Start worrying about speaking your truth even when it's hard. Because being direct is not being rude. It's being responsible. It's being a leader. It's being the person who people can count on to tell it like it is, without hesitation or fear. And that's the person who will create real change, both in their own life and in the lives of those around them. The first person you have to be honest with is yourself. No one is going to step into your life and fix it for you. No one's going to rescue you from your own excuses, your own fears, your own patterns of self-sabotage. That responsibility lies squarely on your shoulders. And the first step to reclaiming your power, your focus, and your future is telling yourself the truth, and not just the easy truths, not the ones that make you feel comfortable or validated. I'm talking about the uncomfortable truths, the ones that hit you in the gut. The ones that expose your weaknesses, your lies, and the ways you've been holding yourself back. If you're not honest with yourself, you'll never make real progress. You'll stay stuck in the same loop year after year, telling yourself that you'll change it someday, that you'll start it tomorrow, that you'll get to it after just one more excuse. But deep down, you know the truth. You know the lies you've been telling yourself. You know how you've been procrastinating, avoiding, distracting yourself, just to keep from facing the hard work that's required to build something great. The hardest thing you'll ever do is admit to yourself that you've been holding your own progress back, that you've been lying to yourself about what you really want and what you're really willing to do to get it. And that's where most people fall short. They lie to themselves about their level of commitment. They tell themselves that they want success, but when it's time to do the work, they hesitate. They get distracted. They settle for comfort. They say they want change, but they don't take action. They convince themselves that the circumstances aren't right, that they don't have enough time, that they need just a little more training, just a little more approval, just a little more permission. And while they're waiting for everything to line up perfectly, time slips away. And the dream? It remains just that, a dream. Nothing more. It's a fantasy, a wish, a fleeting thought that never becomes reality. But the moment you're honest with yourself, truly honest, everything changes. You stop pretending that you can do everything. You stop pretending that you have all the time in the world. You stop letting yourself off the hook for procrastinating. You stop tolerating mediocrity. You start looking at your life through the lens of truth, and the truth is often uncomfortable. It's ugly sometimes. It exposes the lies you've been telling yourself about what you really want and what you're really capable of. But that's the point. It forces you to stop making excuses, to stop hiding behind fear, to stop letting the opinions of others dictate your actions. Napoleon Hill said, "What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But the catch is that you have to believe it. And believing it starts with being honest about where you are now. You can't get to where you want to go if you're too afraid to face the truth about where you are. If you're not being honest with yourself about your habits, your mindset, your priorities, and your actions, you'll never move forward. You'll stay trapped in a cycle of false hopes and empty promises to yourself. You want to know why people don't get ahead? It's because they don't tell themselves the truth. They lie about their work ethic. They lie about their commitment. They lie about their goals. They lie about their potential. And the longer you keep those lies in place, the further you push your dream away. The first step to breaking that cycle is to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am responsible for my life. I am responsible for where I am, where I'm going, and what I'm doing about it. And the second you do that, you start to take control. You start making choices that align with the truth of who you are and who you want to become. You need to ask yourself some hard questions. What have you been avoiding? What are the real reasons you haven't achieved your goals yet? What lies have you been telling yourself? And once you start answering those questions honestly, you can start doing something about it. You can start breaking down the walls you've built around yourself, the walls of excuses, self-doubt, fear, and procrastination. You can start taking action that's aligned with the truth of who you are and what you're truly capable of. Honesty isn't just about looking at the world around you. It's about looking inside. It's about facing your weaknesses, your mistakes, your fears, and your insecurities, and accepting them as part of your story. It's about being willing to change, even when it's uncomfortable, and pushing yourself beyond the limits you've set for yourself. Being honest with yourself isn't easy. It's painful sometimes, but it's the only way to get to the next level. It's the only way to create a life that reflects your true potential. So here's the challenge. Stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending you're doing your best when you're not. Stop making excuses for why you're not where you want to be. Why? The truth will set you free, but only if you're willing to face it head on. When you're honest with yourself, you're free to create the life you deserve. You're free to stop settling for mediocrity and start reaching for greatness. And that's when everything changes. You can't do it all alone. No one can. The myth of the self-made person is just that, a myth. There's no such thing as someone who's truly achieved greatness without the help, support, and collaboration of others. The most successful people in the world understand this truth. They've surrounded themselves with a team, a community, and mentors who support their vision, challenge their limits, and help them move forward. If you're trying to build something big, something meaningful, something that lasts, you need people around you. The idea that you can go it alone is not only naive, it's a recipe for burnout and failure. We're social creatures, built for connection. We thrive when we collaborate, when we share ideas, when we bounce thoughts off each other. You think you can do it all yourself, but the reality is you're missing out on the collective genius that's available to you when you learn to work with others. Alone, you're limited by your own knowledge, experience, and energy. But when you surround yourself with people who complement your strengths, who challenge your weaknesses, and who bring new perspectives to the table, you unlock new levels of power, creativity, and possibility. The most successful people know they don't have all the answers, and they're not afraid to admit it. They build teams of people who bring different skills to the table. They delegate, they outsource, they find the right experts and ask for help when they need it. And here's the thing. Asking for help doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. It shows that you're smart enough to know your limits and humble enough to ask for support. It's a sign of emotional intelligence, of maturity, and of true leadership. The person who tries to do everything on their own is the one who burns out the quickest. You can't carry the weight of your dreams alone. If you try, you'll be crushed under it. Part of building something meaningful is recognizing where you need help. It's understanding that you can't be an expert in everything. You might be amazing at one thing, but terrible at another. And that's okay. That's why teams exist. That's why partnerships exist. That's why mentorship exists. The sooner you realize that you don't have to know everything, that you don't have to carry all the weight, the sooner you'll experience the true power of collaboration. When you're starting something new, whether it's a business, a project, or a new chapter in your life, you're going to face challenges. There will be times when you feel overwhelmed, confused, and unsure of your next step. Uh, but that's the exact moment when your team can step in. When you have the right people around you, you don't have to have all the answers. You can lean on their expertise. You can ask for advice. You can listen to their perspectives. You can get feedback. You can tap into their experience, their insights, and their support. And that's how you keep moving forward. That's how you navigate the tough times and continue growing. Napoleon Hill said, "No man is an island." The sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop trying to do everything yourself. Success is rarely achieved in isolation. It's achieved through collaboration, through leveraging the strength and knowledge of others, and through building a network of people who are aligned with your mission. But this requires vulnerability. See, it requires the courage to admit that you don't have all the answers, that you need help, that you can't do it all alone. And once you do that, once you let go of the ego and open yourself to the support of others, you'll be amazed at how much further you can go. It's important to choose the right people to surround yourself with, though. Not just anyone should be in your circle. You need people who challenge you, people who push you to be better, people who believe in your vision, even when you're doubting it. You need people who will tell you the hard truth when you need to hear it, people who will hold you accountable, people who will celebrate your wins and help you through your losses. But you also need to be someone who is willing to give as much as you take. Success isn't just about getting help. It's about creating a mutually supportive environment where everyone's talents are valued and everyone is working toward the same goal. Some people believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness. They believe that the best leaders are the ones who do it all on their own. But that's just not true. The best leaders are the ones who know how to build a strong team, who know how to delegate, and who aren't afraid to lean on others when they need it. They understand that their success is dependent on the collective efforts of everyone involved. They understand that no one is an island, and that together they can accomplish far more than they could alone. So, if you're still trying to do everything yourself, stop. It's time to build a team, seek mentorship, and collaborate with others. Find the right people who can help you take your vision to the next level. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to delegate. Your dreams are too big to carry alone, and with the right people by your side, you'll find that the journey becomes much easier, much more fulfilling, and much more successful.